Hey gamers, it's Sarah. I'm gonna do some book reviews. For my New Year's resolution, I decided I wanted to try and read at least one book every month, and I have kept up with that. I think I'm on book 7 or 8, so let's go from the top. I mostly listen to audiobooks, but I realize that I read a lot faster than audiobooks do, so I think I'm gonna try doing physical copies. But this first book I read is called Cursed Bunny by Bora Chung, and I listened to it as an audiobook. It is comprised of several short stories, and each was read by like a different narrator, which was pretty cool. I like when books do that. And a lot of the short stories are kind of nonsensical. They don't really have like a theme, it seems, or like a moral story to tell. My favorite of the short stories was the titular Cursed Bunny, which is about a family of like voodoo makers and like curse makers, and the grandfather of the family makes a curse upon this like wealthy CEO who fucked over his childhood friend, and that one was pretty good. Oh shit. Hold on. But a lot of the stories are very dark. A lot of those stories have to do with like very taboo themes, and some of them are very funny, some of them are very weird, some of them are like they range in genre, and I gave this one a 3 out of 5. I would recommend it. I think it's interesting. I like Bora Chung's writing style. Next we have Life Ceremony by Sayaka Murata. I love Sayaka Murata. I've read all of her books. She's a Japanese author. This is another one that is a bunch of short stories. I read it as an audiobook, so all the chapters were narrated by different people. Sayaka Murata wrote 2 other books I really like called Earthlings and Convenience Store Woman, and throughout all of her books, she has a really good theme of basically not fitting into normal society. And since she's Japanese society, which, my god, Japanese society from her books seems so fucking crushing. I mean, like, not to say American culture isn't, but Jesus Christ. Her books, her short stories also deal with a lot of very taboo subjects, but she handles them in such a way that is like very unique, and her voice is very clear. She doesn't approach these taboo subjects with like a moral high ground to say like, oh, this is a bad thing or this is a good thing. More so just making random characters and their experience with these taboo subjects. One of the short stories is called Life Ceremony, and it's basically in like an alternative world where when people die, you eat their bodies in like a soup, and then people have sex during the ceremony, and it's like very joyous. It's basically like end of life ceremony, and it's about a woman whose close friend dies, who's also a co-worker, and she had never really participated in these before. She thought it was kind of strange because when she was a child, they had not existed, but I guess there was like I don't remember exactly. There was some type of event that led to these ceremonies becoming very popular and frequent, and they're, again, a very taboo subject of cannibalism and having like group sex in public, but it's approached really beautifully, and it was probably my favorite story. There's a bunch of really cool stories. There's one about like these 2 friends who just decide that they're gonna get married if they don't like find spouses by the time they're 30, and they're like polar opposites. I really like that one. I gave this one a 4 out of 5. I love Sayaka Murata. I recommend looking up trigger warnings for all of her books though, because like I said, a lot of taboo subjects. But Convenience Store Woman, I wouldn't say there's any triggers for that one. It's a pretty cool book. Alright, moving on to The Vegetarian by Han Kang, who is a Korean author. I should also say Bora Chung is also a Korean author, so these last 3 books have all been translated to English. I don't know if that makes some things lost in context, but The Vegetarian. This is a pretty short book. Again, this was an audiobook. Each chapter is read from a different character's perspective, so again, you have different narrators, which is really cool. It's about this woman who one day decides to become a vegetarian. And not just a vegetarian, she kind of just only eats plants. And it kind of slowly devolves from there, and each chapter is from the perspective of her husband, her sister's husband, and then the last chapter is from the perspective of her sister. And it's honestly a really sad and emotional book, kind of about this woman's descent into this like psychosis that causes her to basically stop eating and starve herself to death. And her husband is a fucking asshole who doesn't understand. Her sister's husband is like this bizarre fucking sex freak, and her sister is just really trying to do right by her, and it's very loving and really sad. Like, I was so shocked how kind of solemn this book is. It's a pretty short read. I think it was like 3-4 hours long, which is probably about 200 pages. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 as well. Again, these like Korean and Japanese books really paint Korean and Japanese like culture as really fucking oppressive. Like, it's fucking sad. Moving on to Bunny by Mona Awad. Again, I read this as an audiobook, and I was really excited for it because it had a bunny in it, similar to Curse Bunny. This book is weird, and I get most of my recommendations from TikTok, and this one just, I don't know. There's so much that happens in this book, yet nothing happens in this book, and I don't really want to spoil the ending, but it's about this woman who's about 24, 25. Her name is Samantha Heather Mackey, affectionately called Smacky by her friend, which I love. I really love that nickname. That's like a great nickname. Samantha and Mackie, Smacky, that's great. But she goes to this prestigious English literature school up in like northern John's watching TikTok. Forgive him. She goes to this writing school. I forget, it's up north somewhere. I want to say in like New York or some shit. And she's like very obsessed. Even the book even says she's super obsessed with being like an outsider. She like is self-described as like, oh, I'm too tall and alternative, and I'm too poor to fit in here. But it's like, bitch, you go to the rich school, and there's this group of girls. 4 of them who call themselves the Bunnies, and they are very stereotypically like pink, white, wealthy girls who seem to be like all in love with each other. And Smacky gets invited to one of their parties, and things kind of devolve from there. Again, I don't want to spoil any of these books, but it's just a kind of a bizarre thing. I wanted more than what it gave me. It's also such a... The writing is great. Like, the book is completely from Smacky's perspective, and you're like, damn, I can definitely tell that this is a writing student in a good way. She write like the best part about this book is probably the writing itself. It's really great, descriptive. The main character is so fucking annoying, and I actually like unlikable main characters when it comes to books. I don't really like them in movies and TV shows, but something about books, I really like them. But man, she's just like another breed of like so in her own way, very like pick-me-esque, weird. There's like a subplot where it seems like she's in love with one of her teachers, and they're not on speaking terms anymore, and you think, oh, did they have sex? Did something scandalous happen? No, she's just like so fucking immature. And she's like a 25-year-old who can't even fathom like confronting her shitty teacher. I don't know. I gave this one a 3 out of 5 because I like the writing a lot, but it was too long to justify the nothing that happens, and I just really wanted more from it. Yeah. Next we have Paradise by Fernanda Melchor. I really like Fernanda Melchor. She wrote a book called Hurricane Season, which I read a few years ago. That book is like fucking every trigger warning under the sun, but I really liked it because it doesn't approach the characters, again, with any moral high ground. It's kind of like, holy shit, look at this fucked up shit that happened. That book was really great. This one's a lot shorter. It was about half the length, and once again, it really shows how good Fernanda is at writing completely fucking terrible piece of shit, spineless little bitch characters. I really enjoyed it. Not much happens in the book. Again, it's pretty short, and it's all from this one character's perspective, and it's all leading up to this big grand event. Again, I won't spoil it. Again, look up trigger warnings for this book. It's definitely not going to be everybody's cup of tea. If think I gave it a 3 out of 5. A lot of 3 out of 5s. I don't know. I have liked all the books I've read so far, just some more than others. But this one's a little short. The subject matter is pretty tense, but I kind of like reading about piece of shit people. And the main character in this is a fucking loser piece of shit. It's pretty entertaining. Next we have I Who Have Never Known Men. This is the first 5 out of 5 that I gave. This book is incredible. This book is excellent. I remember reading it and I didn't want to put it down. I was so fucking intrigued by this book. It's about, and I'm not going to say much about it because this is a book that you should really go in mostly blind. So honestly, I'll just say it's about 40 women who have lived in a bunker for 12 years in prison there. And one day, the bunker is unlocked. And that's kind of all I'll say about it. This is a really great book about, like, humanity as a whole, about culture surviving. I just thought it was really beautiful. I gave it a 5 out of 5. It's also worth noting that the author, I believe, is a Holocaust survivor, or her family members are Holocaust survivors. So that definitely plays into some of the themes of this book. But I really liked it. It's a pretty short read, too. And, like, so much happens in this book, and you're kind of just like, holy shit, damn. So I really liked it. I would recommend it. I gave it a 5 out of 5. It was great. Next is Between Two Fires. I read this as an audiobook as well, and the narrator, I forget his name. Oh my god, he did a really great job. He was an incredible narrator. This book is set in France during the plague, and it's about a disgraced knight who meets a young girl who has, like, it seems to be, like, possessed by an angel. And this book kind of has these, like, not prologues, but every time there's a new part, it's basically describing the war between angels and devils during the Black Plague, and that God is not there to answer the cries of humanity. It's pretty interesting. A lot of shit happens in this book. It was pretty cool. The writing's really great. It's just probably not a book that, or like a genre that I would reach for again. But I did enjoy it. The writing was pretty cool. At times, it's kind of hard to follow what happens, but I did like what happened. The characters are really interesting. At times, it felt a little cliche, like old grumpy man befriends young girl. Fucking yes, I've seen The Last of Us, you know. But I quite liked it. I think I gave it a 3.8 out of 5. And I feel like that's pretty fair. It kept me hooked throughout, like I was still intrigued, but this genre is like medieval horror, I don't know. At times it was a little like, damn, so fucking much is happening. And lastly, we have Winter in Sochco. I was really excited to read this book. I couldn't find it like anywhere for the longest time, but it was at my library. This is a really short book, and I read it in a physical copy. And it's about a young woman who lives in Sochco, which is a border resort town between the border of North Korea and South Korea. If you are a fan of Lost in Translation, I think you would like this book, which is funny because I hated the Lost in Translation, but I really like this book. It deals with a lot of themes of loneliness, and having the backdrop of the North Korean border is pretty important to this book, despite it. This book was like 150 pages. It was really short. And it's all from the main character's perspective, who is a French-Korean woman. I really liked it. It was cozy. I vibed with it. It was pretty chill. I would definitely recommend this one. It's a really quick read. The character, you really get a feel for her in such a short amount of time, and then it's kind of just like, meh, life goes on. I gave this one a 3.75 out of 5. And those are all the books I've read so far. Right now I'm reading Grey Dog by Elliot Gish. And I'm almost done with it. I have like 120 pages left. It's a literary horror, and I quite like it. So probably in a few more months, depending on how many more books I've read, I'll do another one. And you guys better fucking watch this video and validate me and leave nice comments.